Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Skill 10 of the structure section for the TOEFL preparation course. Now, in this class, we're still going to continue to work with noun clause. And if you remember from Skill 9, a noun clause is a group of words that could basically be summarized in it, right? I know it, I know what you did, right? What you did is it, I know it. And of course, when we're talking about clauses, we have typically two clauses and a connector is joining the two clauses, right? Okay, now bear with me. In skill 10, we're going to be looking at connector subjects. So what this means is that my connector is a connector, but also a subject of a verb, right? And typically, in this case, what we saw in skill 9 with noun clause connectors and noun clauses in general, and now noun clause connector subjects is the same idea we're going to be seeing in 11 and 12 with adjective clauses, and then with adjective clauses using connector subjects, right? Now, I'll give you some examples. Here's one example with a noun clause as object of verb. I do not know is my first clause, right? I, subject, do not know, verb structure. What is in the box? So I do not know it, right? I think here they may have mistaken the box. The little box should be all the way to box, right? And in this case, this would be my it, right? I don't know it. Now, if you notice, this makes sense, right? No conozco qué hay en la caja, right? O qué está en la caja. What is in the box? I don't know what is in the box. So is going to be my second verb, but if I ask who or what is, my answer is going to be what, right? Now, here we have to remember that, and this is very important, there are indefinites. Indefinites are things or people we do not know, right? Indefinites. So this is like somebody, someone, right? When we say something like, somebody took my cereal, right? We don't know who, but we still need to mention, right, that indefinite. These are indefinite, the connector subjects, right? So I don't know what is in the box. The what doesn't make reference to something specific, but it could be anything, right? But it is also a connector, right? So it's a connector, right? Because it's connecting two verbs and it's the subject, right? And since it goes after a verb, it's going to be object of verb, right? Let's look at another example. We are concerned about who will do the work. Here, since it goes after a preposition, it's going to be object of preposition, right? But who will do the work? We are concerned about who will do the work can be summarized in it, right? It's still a noun clause. So we are concerned about it. We are is my first clause, subject verb, right? And then will do is my second verb. Who or what will do? Who, right? So in this case, who is going to be my connector and also my subject, right? Who will do the work? It's kind of like a question, right? But if you ask it in an indirect question, it would be a subject. Like if you say, could you tell me who will do the work? Right? In that case, who will do the work is not a question. It's only a question if it's in the beginning, like who will do the work, right? Then it's a question. Now let's look at the last one, which is noun clause as subject. As we saw in skill 9, you have to use it, or you can also use it as a subject. In this case, whoever is coming to the party, right? All of this can be summarized in it, right? Or, in this case, it must bring a gift, or he or she must bring a gift, or they must bring a gift, right? It could also be they in this case. Whoever is coming to the party must bring a gift. So first, I have my verb is coming. Who or what is coming? Whoever, right? Quien sea que venga o quien va a venir debe traer un regalo, right? And this is something that we could say typically, but we don't analyze the grammar, right? Whoever in this case is a subject for the verb is coming, and it's also a connector for the two verbs, is coming and must bring, right? So this is where it gets like crazy, but just bear with me, okay? It's easier than you think, but this is basically the idea. Now, the good thing is that there aren't many connector subjects, but we'll look at those in a moment. Okay, let's look at this example. Take a moment, pause the video if you want to, and tell me which one is correct and why. But let's check it. Okay, so we have a verb right off the bat. Was on television, made me angry. We have another verb. So we have two verbs. What do we need if we have two verbs? We need one connector, right? And two subjects, right? We need two subjects and one connector for this sentence. Now, our options are it, the story, what, or when. Well, it was on television. No, because this one would be like just part of like one subject. The story was on television. Nope. What or when? Now, in this case, these are possible. When was on television made me angry makes no sense. So it's going to be what. What was on television made me angry, right? Lo que estaba en la tele me hizo enojar. And then what would, of course, be the subject of was. It's the connector of was and made. And all of that is going to be the subject for the second verb, which is made, right? It made me angry, okay? So now let's look at a little graph down here. So the noun clause connectors could be who, whoever, what, whatever, and which, whichever, right? And we have certain variations like noun clause as an object of a verb or a preposition or as a subject. I know what happened. Yo sé lo que pasó, right? And in this case, what happened is a connector and a subject of the verb happened, right? And it's correct. Or what happened was great, right? In this case, what is in the beginning, it's the subject of happened, right? And all of that is going to be the subject of was great, okay? So let's go with the exercises right down here. It says, each of the following sentences contains more than one clause. Underline the subjects as usual, right? Underline the subjects once and the verbs twice. Circle the connectors. Put boxes around the noun clauses, and then indicate if they're correct or incorrect, all right? So let's look at number 1 and number 2, and then you can pause the video to do 3 to 5, and then we'll do 6 to 10. So the first one says the game show contestant was able to respond to whatever was asked. So we have the contestant was, first subject, first verb, that's a clause. Whatever was asked, whatever is my connector, is the subject of was asked, and all of that is the noun clause, right? The game show contestant was able to respond to it. We can summarize it. Now you could say, well, how do I know if there has to be a subject here, right? Whatever he was asked, because sometimes that's possible. All you have to ask is if it makes sense with the connector. If it makes sense with the connector and a subject, like in this case, the game show contestant was able to respond to whatever he was asked is extra or just sounds extra, then you can eliminate it and it would be correct like that, right? The game show contestant was able to respond to whatever was asked, right? Now let's look at number 2. You should find out which the best physics department, right? Right off the bat, it sounds weird, but let's see why. You should find out is my first clause, subject, verb, which is a connector, is a subject, but what's missing here? We're missing a verb, right? Which is, you should find out which was the best, which will be the best physics department, right? Okay, now pause the video, do number 3 to 5, and we'll check them in a moment, okay? All right, let's check it. Number 3 says, the employee was unhappy about what was added to the job, to his job description. So we have our first verb, was, who or what was the employee, right? And then we have the next verb over here, was added, or just was. What was added is my subject, and then it's also a connector. And then we could say he was unhappy about it, right? So all of this is a noun clause. So it seems to have all the elements, and yes, it's correct. In this case, it's an object of preposition because it's after the preposition about. Let's look at number 4. Whoever wants to take the desert tour during spring break, signing up at the office. Okay, so we have first off, wants, who or what wants, whoever. Whoever is also, like we just saw, a connector. And then we have another verb over here, signing, right? But we're missing something. We can't just say signing. What are we missing? Is, right? Is signing up. Whoever wants to take the desert tour during spring break. And all of this is a noun clause as a subject, right? All of this is going to be the subject because we could say they are, or he is, or she is, right? This is a little bit more complicated when it's like whoever, like we saw with the example. But yeah, it's the idea of the connector in there, right? The problem here is we're missing the is, right? We need to put is signing up. So this one's going to be incorrect. It's a subject, right? But it's missing a verb. Yes. Okay, let's look at number 5. The motorist was unable to discover who he had struck his car. We have a verb here, was unable. Who or what was unable? The motorist. And then we have here, well, let's first check the verb. Had. Who had? He. We have a connector, who. So according to this, it would be correct, but we have to ask ourselves, is it correct with the extra subject or can we eliminate it? So we can say, oh, I gotta charge my computer. So we gotta ask ourselves, do I have to have the he there or can I eliminate it? The motorist was unable to discover who he had struck his car or who had struck his car. Who had struck his car, right? So in this case, we have to eliminate he because we're trying to see who had struck his car, right? It's kind of like passive. He was affected by the crash. So he was unable to discover. In this case, it's going to be an object of a verb, I believe. Object of verb, and we have an extra subject, so that's going to make it incorrect, right? And in this case, yeah, it's going to be yeah, because it's after the verb, unable to discover. That's why it's going to be object of a verb. But yeah, it would be incorrect because we would need to only have who had, right? Okay, now let's go to number 6 to 10. I'm going to leave it on the screen for a moment so you can pause the video and we will check them in a moment, okay? All right, ready? Let's check number 6. The voters should elect whichever of the candidates seems best to them. So should elect is my first verb. Who or what should elect? The voters. We have whichever as a connector. We can even say whichever of the candidates is like my complete connector. And then we have a verb seems, right? This would be whichever of the candidates seems is the subject of seems, and they should elect them or him or her, right? So that would be my noun clause. And number 6 is going to be correct. Yes, it's object of verb because it's after the verb elect. Okay, let's look at number 7. It was difficult to distinguish between what was on sale and what was merely on display. So first we have was in the beginning, who or what was it. And then we have another was over here. It's a verb. We could say what is the subject of that. And then we have another was over here. We could say what is the subject of that, what also. So we have a connector here, right? Also, this is going to be a connector. And we have a connector here. Now we could say, well, if we have 2 connectors, 3 verbs, so far so good, right? But in this case, we have another connector, right? We could say this and is going to be my connector. It's going to be connecting what was on sale and what was merely on display. So in this case, that can work. It's going to be okay. And we can say it was difficult to distinguish between this and that, or between it, right? The whole thing. That's going to be my noun clause. So it has all the elements, number 7, and yes, it's correct. It's object of preposition because it's after the preposition between. This one's a little bit tricky, but just remember when you have and, or, any of those coordinating connectors, it's like that is all together, right? Like it's complete. It's a whole thing. Okay, let's look at 8. You should buy whatever the cheapest and most durable. Right away it sounds off, right? But let's see why. Should buy is the first verb. Who or what should buy? You. We have whatever, which is a connector, and it could potentially be a subject, but what's the problem here? We don't have a verb, right? This could be the noun clause, or I think it is the noun clause. So it's a noun clause of object as verb. Yeah, number 8, object of verb, but it's incorrect because we're missing our verb, right? You should buy whatever is the cheapest, whatever will be the cheapest and most durable. I don't know. We need something there. Okay. Let's look at number 9. What was written in the letter angered him beyond belief. So we have was as my verb. Who or what was what? This is probably my connector, right? What was written in the letter. Angered him. Angered is another verb. Who or what angered him? What was written in the letter, or it, right? It angered him. So this is going to be my subject of angered. And yeah, I think that's everything. So it's subject and it's correct, has all the elements. Okay, and let's look at the last one. You can spend your time with whoever important to you. Yeah, kind of sounds off again. So can spend your time is going to be the verb. Who or what can spend? You. We have whoever right here. Whoever is a connector, and it's probably a subject of a verb, but what's wrong? Exactly, we don't have a verb, so we're missing a verb. You can spend time with, and remember the whichever, whoever, whatever is a little bit complicated to say it's it or them or him or her because we don't know. But at the end of the day, it's the noun clause. It's object of preposition because it's after the preposition with. But since we're missing our verb, it's going to be incorrect, right? Okay, so we made it. Hope you enjoyed the video. In the next grammar topics, we're going to be discussing adjective clause, right? And 11 and 12 is about adjective clause. So it's the same idea. First, we're working with an adjective clause, and then we're going to work with the connector subject in the adjective clause, right? And yeah, be on the lookout for next video. We have skill 10 of the reading section of the TOEFL preparation course. So I will see you in the next video. Okay, have a good day. Bye.